Today we're joined by none other than Hardcore Bob Holly. Thanks for being here today with us.
I appreciate you guys having me here.
My very first question to you would be, were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Oh, yes. Yes, I was. Very first time I ever saw wrestling was when I was 7 years old, I believe. And believe it or not, I watched Portland wrestling up in Oregon. And I was born in California, and then my folks moved up to Oregon. And then first time I ever saw wrestling was, when I was up there in Oregon. And but when I was in California, I used to watch roller derby, believe it or not.
T-Birds and all that?
Oh,
Miss
yeah.
Georgia Haas?
Yeah. And see, that, and it was the same basic concept, and I got into it. And, of course, my brother, he hated watching it. And then when we moved to Oregon, then I watched Portland wrestling, and then I watched big time wrestling out of California.
Right.
And Pat Patterson was there, Peter Mavia.
This is the 70s?
This was in the 70s.
Piper, Moondog Mayne, all those guys.
Piper, Moondog Mayne, Jimmy Snuka, Playboy Buddy Rose, Kurt Hennig, all them guys went through Portland.
Right.
Just about everybody that's been in WWE seemed to go through Portland. Even Tom Pritchard was there.
I guess as far as getting into the business, is something that you always knew you wanted to get into?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I thought about. That's all I thought about was wrestling.
What did you do before you got into the wrestling business?
I worked in my first job, I was 15, 16. I worked in a golf course, picking the driving range and cleaning golf clubs. Then my second job was working in a beer warehouse. And then I found out that they had a wrestling school in Pensacola, Florida. So as soon as I graduated from high school, I went to Pensacola. Actually moved to Mobile.
Right.
And then just went back and forth every day to wrestling school in Pensacola. Rip Tyler and Bob Sweetan trained me.
I was going to ask you, what was the training like?
Yeah.
Did you ever get discouraged in the beginning, or?
Hell no.
No, okay.
I never did. No. Because I knew what I wanted.
Right.
And I had people tell me all the time that I was never going to make it. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm doing what I want to do. I want to wrestle, and if I make it, fine. If I don't, then, at least I got to wrestle.
What was the biggest misconception that you had about the business early on?
The biggest misconception? Well, of course, when you're young and don't know any better, you think it's real, of course.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. I really didn't have any misconceptions about it. All I thought about was wanting to get in it and didn't care. And, I was shocked at how everything worked.
Right.
Of course, that was a culture shock for me, how everything worked. And, but I mean, that's the way it was. And I was willing to do whatever it took to, hang in there.
What was the hardest thing for you to pick up as far as the training goes? Do you think it was the psychology, or was it learning how to bump, or?
Nothing. I picked it up right off the bat.
Okay.
I mean, I did. I really did. And that's one of the things that they told me, that I was a natural at it,
Right.
And I've got my very, very first match on videotape. And that thing is under lock and key, and this whole world will never see that tape.
Who'd you work?
I worked, the guy's name was Bob. And you talk about terrible, as far as, the way the psychology of the business is now.
Right.
I mean, it's embarrassing for me to even watch. It was about a 30-minute match.
Wow.
And it was very boring,
Right.
And, of course, I'd only been training probably, a month or so. And then, they did, they started doing their own TVs and everything. It was called WOW, World Organization Wrestling. And that's, Rip Tyler owned it, and then a guy out of Japan, Mr. Ito,
Okay.
he was partners in it. And so that's how that all started. But first we just did like studio wrestling, and that's all we did, and so I've got my very first match on tape.
Wow.
My very first one, and nobody's ever seen it, and I won't let anybody see it. I don't think there's a price to be paid for that one.
Right. How soon did Bob Sweetan spartan you up to the business? Was it gradual, or is it right away? Or
well, it wasn't until I think my first match that I had, because I just got the shit kicked out of me basically,
right,
by him and some other folks, and he tortured me. I mean, he made me run and run and run. He'd ride his bicycle up and down the road while I ran next to him.
Wow.
And he tried to break me, and he couldn't break me.
Now, you were also involved in NASCAR. How did that come about?
I've always wanted to race all my life, and a friend of mine said, a girl I was dating at the time, she knew a guy that raced, and we went over there, and I was just, amazed at his race car, and told him that I've always wanted to race, and he said, well, we can build you one.
Right.
And so what I did was, he was an owner of a plumbing company. And so what I did is I'd work my regular job, plus I'd work for him on the side to get extra money, because what he would do is he'd help me build the car, and then he'd go get parts for it and stuff like that, and I would just pay him back, and then that's how I got started. And my very first race, I finished 4th in, and I was told that I wouldn't win a race for at least 2 years. Then the next weekend out, I won my first race.
Wow.
And then I started winning after that.
What led you to get into, the Smoky Mountain wrestling scene and leave NASCAR? Was it just scheduling conflict, or?
No. Because I liked wrestling, and racing was just a hobby.
Right.
And Jim Cornette called me and wanted me to come to work for him, so I did.
Were you familiar with Jimmy and his territory at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I knew Jimmy through WCW.
Right.
So, because every once in a while I would go up to WCW and, put guys over, back in the day. And,
right.
And Jim smartened me up and said, don't come up here and do it anymore.
He knew that you had something.
Yeah, he knew I had something special, and he said, don't do it no more. Don't come up here.
Right.
And so I quit coming, and, and then I got, went back home, started working again, and then he started Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and then he called me, and so I went to work for him for a little while.
What were your initial impressions of Jimmy?
I like him. I liked him a lot.
Right.
So, he liked me, and me and him never had any problems with each other.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.